Okay, let's actually go through and do some practice with writing ratios now. So our first one, we're supposed to write each of these ratios as a fraction in lowest terms. Remember, that's always extremely important. They're going to be writing it in lowest terms. Okay, so our first one says we're going to compare 8 days to 9 days. Now we can do that because our units are the same. We're talking about comparing days to days. These are the exact same items, so we can do that comparison. If we compare 8 to 9 in fraction format, this is what it looks like. Now, we can't do any reducing here. That is fully simplified, so our ratio would look like 8 to 9, or 8/9. Now over here, we're going to compare 45 books to 35 books. So we're comparing books to books. Those are the same units. So we can compare 45 to 35. Now we do have to fully reduce. So let's see, between 45 and 35, they have a 5 in common. 5 will go into 45 9 times rather, and 5 will go into 35 7 times. So as a reduced fraction, that ratio would be 9/7. Now we can also do it with money. Here we have a problem that says $4.50 compared to $3.50. And again, we can do that because those are both money. So we can compare $4.50 compared to $3.50. Now, here's a very interesting thing that we can do. When it comes to anytime you have zeros on the end, you can always do a very quick reduction by just canceling out the zeros. It's as if we're dividing by the same power of 10 on top and bottom. So that's a very quick thing that we can always do. Now, that leaves us with 4.5 compared to 3.5, or 4.5 over 3.5. Now, here's another little trick that you can use whenever you're working with decimals. Because decimals are just powers of 10, because our number system is powers of 10, we can do something really interesting here which will help us to be able to simplify. Each one of these decimals is to the 10th spot. So what we can do is we can multiply top and bottom by 10. Now if I multiply by 10 over 10, that's really a 1. So by multiplying by 1, I've not changed the meaning of my fraction. I'm just manipulating it to look slightly different. But when we do that, 4.5 times 10 gives us 45. It just moves the decimal over. And 3.5 times 10 gives us 35. Again, that just moves the decimal over. So this is a nice trick when working with decimals. And now it's much easier to reduce that fraction because 5 will go into 45 9 times and 5 will go into 35 7 times. So our answer, our ratio of $4.50 compared to $3.50 would be 9/7. Now we can also work with mixed numbers and fractions here. Even though it starts to look a little bit crazy, we're going to go back to our fraction rules. Here we're comparing numbers, so those are the same units, so that's quite all right. Then we can go ahead and do that comparison. So here I'm comparing 5 to 1 1/4. Now I don't want to usually work with mixed numbers, so let's rewrite that as 5 over, we can change this into an improper fraction. That would be 4 times 1 would be 4, plus 1 would be 5. So that would be comparing 5 to 5/4. Now, again, remembering your fraction rules. This really means 5 divided by 5/4. And if we need to see this as a fraction, we can write it over 1. Now think to yourself about your fraction rules. Do we ever divide fractions? No. Instead, we change it to a multiplication and flip the second problem, or the second item. So now we can cancel our 5s because we have one on top and one on bottom, and now our ratio is 4 to 1.